welcome. I'm Dave Cosmo, an American Heart Association CPR educator, life safety educator. And we have a special show today about juicing and smoothies. And Allison's here, and she's going to tell us all about it. First, tell us who you are, Allison.
So my name is Allison Stowell. I'm a registered dietitian in private practice and consultation. And I'm also a retail dietitian, so I spend a lot of time in supermarkets helping customers shop and make sure that what goes in their cart goes home to create a healthy home for them. And one of the big things that we've been talking about in store and in retail, is smoothies and juicing. So I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah, everywhere I go, I see smoothies, juicing now more than I ever have. And sometimes I never know what to choose, what's in it. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. So let's start by discussing the difference between juicing and smoothies.
Okay.
So broadly speaking, when you juice something, you are extracting the juice from the produce. Generally, I think it happens more with vegetables than with fruits.
Okay.
But what you're doing is you're pressing it in such a way that you're extracting the antioxidants, which is why you see that rich color in a juice, and the sugars from the vegetables. In most cases, the pulp or the fibers in the vegetable are extracted, and you're just left with the liquid.
Okay.
In a smoothie, there's usually a dairy base to that. It could be milk or yogurt, or it could be a dairy alternative, such as almond milk or soy milk, or anything like that. So there's a creaminess difference, and there's a difference also in that when you make a smoothie, everything goes in and everything gets ground together or blended together. So all that pulp and everything is actually included in the drink.
Okay. Now, when you're juicing for juices, I see that they use a lot of kale and spinach and things like that. Now, do those have a lot of sugars in it too?
Yeah, I mean, what will happen is that you're getting all the folic acid and the good vitamins and minerals, and those antioxidants that are cancer fighting and also disease risk reducing, if you will. But you're not getting the fiber. So if you're looking for fiber, then you're not getting that in the juice.
Okay.
Those ingredients you may not think about for smoothies, but you can add those to a smoothie too. You can add your greens, you can add your avocado, you can do all that in either one.
Okay, great. And it's so easy to make. You just need a blender and some ingredients, and you can do it in your own home, right?
Yeah, exactly. And of course, like with anything, especially when these things become mainstream, you mentioned that you're seeing it all over. There's smoothie shops, there's juice shops, there's counters, at gyms, it's all over. Whenever I think as a dietitian, when things become mainstream, there's that kind of like potential for it to become less than the original. In other words, the original may have been very nutrient rich, and we had this whole idea of how to make a good for you drink.
Right.
And then the more that it becomes available and accessible, it may become less and less so good for you.
Right.
So
because when I think of juicing, I'm thinking of Jack LaLanne and the juicer, right? Because that was one of the things that made him very popular.
Right. But now presently, if you went out and you got a juice or got a smoothie, you want to make sure they're not adding things to it, that they're using actual vegetables and fruit in there and things like that.
Right, right. Now, when you juice, it's a lot more difficult to clean the apparatus, right?
Yeah, there's a lot more components versus just your, and today we're using, I think, what would you call this, a traditional blender?
Okay.
But there's other ones where it blends right into a cup, like a NutriBullet kind of thing.
So it's simple.
There's some very big time blenders out there that can even make soups and boil things,
Right.
Today we're just using a simple product.
Okay. So what are some of the products that I would add to my smoothie if I just want to make something and this is a good breakfast drink too, right?
Yeah, sure. Again, it all comes down to how you make it. And before we even add everything to it, what I wanted to say is that because these drinks can add a lot of calories to your day if you're not cautious, you want to make them in a way that's actually going to benefit your day and actually add some satiety. In other words, something that's going to keep you fuller longer. For example, in the smoothie we're going to make today, we're using Greek yogurt because it's protein rich. So if it were to only be made of fruits and vegetables, you could be just getting carbohydrate that leaves you hungry.
Oh, I see.
But adds a lot of calories.
Right.
And then if you're hungry again, you're going to overdo it on the day.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Excellent.
Should we just go ahead?
Yeah, first tell me about some of the ingredients that you have that we're going to add.
Okay, so today what I brought with me is some frozen blueberries. And the reason I'm using frozen fruit, although obviously fresh fruit is also terrific, is that I'm not using ice. And I wanted it to have a nice chilled, very cold taste.
Okay.
So I'm using frozen berries in lieu of fresh, just because they're going to have that icy
But
component.
they're basically just as good, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, your frozen produce is just as good as your fresh, and it's easy to have on
Do they cost
hand.
the same amount when you buy them fresh versus frozen, or do you save a little more money?
You
when you buy them
usually
frozen?
save a little money having a bag like this frozen.
I'm always looking to save money, that's for sure.
And you can keep them in all year round.
Right.
The other reason I'm using blueberries is they're like a powerhouse fruit, right?
Right.
They're blue.
Right.
Naturally, there's not a lot of good ways to get blue. We're not
Right.
going to talk about the artificial way. That's not what we're
because
interested in.
aren't they considered? But I know this is just a term in our generation, superfood.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I'm not sure exactly what that really means.
Well, it just means that they have so many benefits to them, whether
Okay.
it's anti-aging and helping with dizziness. I mean, there's a lot of different things that if you were to Google blueberries, you'd find.
Okay.
I'm sure the Blueberry Association can tell you all kinds. So we're using that today. As I mentioned, we're using Greek yogurt. We're using plain Greek yogurt, so that the sugar is going to be coming from the fruit, but the protein is going to be coming from the yogurt.
Oh, I
Okay.
see. Okay. All right. Excellent.
I have some non-fat milk here. If it gets a little thick, we can thin it
Okay.
with that. And then a little bit, I've got some pure pineapple juice here. For my taste, I like to thin a little bit with that versus orange juice. It doesn't give as much of a citrusy flavor.
Okay.
The thing I should say is that with smoothies, it's really kind of hard to mess them up.
Right.
Like as long as you're putting the things in you like, you're going to be okay. But this is where you're going to be using just a little bit. We're certainly not using even this full can.
Right.
And then the other two things that I think people may not automatically think about is ways of adding heart-healthy fat or protein to your smoothie. So the ground flaxseed, the reason I'm using ground
Can I
is...
see that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So when you consume your flaxseed ground, you are getting some heart-healthy fat.
Right.
And essentially, as you break that down to your body, you're going to get the same kind of fats in there that you get from fish. So if you're not eating fish twice a week, as the American Heart Association recommends,
Right.
You can use something like this. And by adding just a tablespoonful to our smoothie, we're going to be getting those fats.
Oh, excellent. And
Yeah.
so you can put this on just a multitude of things.
Absolutely. In fact, I have a customer at the store that
Right.
likes to keep her ground flaxseed in a Parmesan shaker, and this way it's always in her refrigerator. She adds it to salads and anything, and I think that's a great way to just make sure you get it in. It's important to note that the reason we're using it ground is when you digest this as a whole seed, if you were to pick it up whole instead, you're going to benefit from the fiber, but you won't get the fats out of it because your body can't break down the seed. That's
Gotcha.
why I'm using it ground.
Makes sense.
And the other thing that I'm not going to be adding it today, but something I wanted to mention is that adding your nut butters to your smoothies is a great way, gives it a little nuttiness, and adds some more fat and a little bit of protein.
Right.
If there was a protein powder you really loved, you could throw a scoop of that in.
You can be as creative as you want. You can be like a smoothie artist.
You could, and then just keep in your own little recipe book.
Right.
And by the way, there's a ton of recipe books out there, and online you can download so many recipes. But what you want to do is make sure you're adding something in for that satiety factor.
Okay. So I guess the key is volume, because you don't want to have a giant blender full.
Right.
unless you're
Although
gonna-
you can store it.
Right, you can store it.
And when you mentioned
And then just pull it out and then just blend it up and then you're ready to
yeah,
go.
right. I mean, when you mentioned breakfast,
Right.
and would this make a great breakfast? Absolutely. But I think when you asked me earlier why are we seeing these all over? It's convenience, right? I mean, we're trying to get in our fruits and vegetables and trying to do it the easiest
And
way
it tastes
possible,
good.
and it tastes good. So if you make this the night before when you have a little more time,
Right.
then in the morning you just give it a quick stir and pour it into your cup, and you're on the go. So
Okay.
you can definitely store it in your refrigerator.
Good.
Right?
That
Would
sounds
you like
good.
to
Yeah,
go
I'd like
for
to.
it?
Yeah, let's
Okay.
start experimenting.
So yeah, I was going to say there's no specific recipe we're using today.
Okay.
We're just going to be adding in our fruit, probably about a cup to a cup and a half of berries. I'm going to do this is a 5-ounce container of yogurt, so I'm going to add that to it. And like I said, I'm doing this one for the protein. You could add a soy-based yogurt if you weren't having dairy. I suppose you could leave it out
But if you
altogether
added a
if you want.
yogurt with fruit, then you'd be adding more fruit. Mm-hmm. So you really don't want to do that.
Yeah, and the other thing is that if I had both hands, I would hold up quotation marks. The fruit in your yogurt
Yeah.
is not really fruit. This way, we're adding 100% real fruit.
So is it pretend fruit?
Well, it's almost gelled like a.
It is.
It
Because
is.
it's at the
almost like-
bottom, and when you scrape out the yogurt and you see this, what is that? What exactly is that?
Yeah, I mean, it reminds
We're
me
not
of
sure
jam
what
a
it
little
is,
bit. We're
right?
not sure. The yogurt companies wouldn't want us speaking like that, so we got to be careful.
Okay. The yogurt police. I've seen them around.
So I'm adding a tablespoon of ground flaxseed, like I mentioned.
Okay.
You're going to get a significant amount of your omegas just out of that. And This is the part where I get a little less, I'm just going to add like a little bit of non-fat milk so that when we blend it, it doesn't get too thick on us.
Okay.
Because the Greek yogurt,
Is there alternatives to the milk if you don't want any dairy at all?
Almond milk you could do.
Okay.
You could do water if you really
Right.
wanted.
Okay.
And I'm adding just a little bit of fruit juice. And to be honest, sometimes I make it, and then if I want to add a little more to it, I do that again after.
Right.
Make sure the lid's on nice and tight before you have a big problem in your fridge,
Right.
in your kitchen. And then we're just going to blend it.
Okay.
And it's a little loud, so we'll do that. Take a minute.
So you start off slow, right?
Yeah. If you had ice cubes in here, you would need to have it blending longer.
So is it better, if it's better to put the ice cubes in or pour it over the ice?
Depends how thick and icy you want it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I think that's pretty good. So when I make these smoothies at home for my family, my children always want to know, what'd you do to it? What'd you put in it today? What are you trying to help us have here?
Oh, they're suspicious.
Yes, a little. So the way I know when I've overdone it is when they can't fit it through their straw. But I mean, that's just like beautiful color. And when you
Right.
see that deep, rich color in your produce, that's how you know you're getting your antioxidants, when you get that deep, rich color in your drinks.
You should put like a mint leaf on there.
Yes, it would
Right?
be beautiful. Absolutely for presentation. If you had guests coming for the summer and you serve them smoothie in the morning, they would feel like they were at a little elegant bed and breakfast. Okay, so that's for you, Dave.
Thank you.
And
So for people who are a little on more like the party side, they could add alcohol, or would you
I
add
suppose
rum or
they
something
could.
like that?
You know what? Well, I suppose you could do that. But
Right.
what would be even better for you, though,
Right.
far better for you,
Right.
is that on a hot summer day, or on a day where you're exerting yourself a lot, would be to add coconut water. And you can find a variety of coconut waters
Right.
on the shelf.
Which is excellent hydration.
Exactly. It's a natural electrolyte source, and you don't need to get a flavored coconut water because you're getting so many flavors right here.
Right.
So that's a way of adding a little bit more to this if you wanted.
That sounds pretty clever.
Yeah.
Should we try it?
Sure.
Cheers. All right, let's
see
see
what
how
you
this,
think.
test this out. It's pretty thick.
Yeah,
it's
it's
good.
really thick. So if you did that and you felt like it was getting too thick, you could add a little more juice, or certainly leave it, and then if you were saving it for the morning, I would thin it out again in the morning before you go. But you can kind of get the flaxseed in there too.
So I pretty much can taste just about everything. I can taste the vanilla, I can taste the blueberry, I taste a little bit of the pineapple, and it's what's nice. I like the flax because you can feel that coming up through it.
Yeah.
It gives it texture.
Yes.
And people like to have texture, like when they like to eat very dark chocolate because of the texture of it,
Yeah.
which
Now,
is healthy for you.
yeah, we'll say that for
In
the next
moderation,
segment.
in
Yes,
moderation.
in moderation. What I wanted to mention too is that you could always pour this into a popsicle thing or ice cube maker or something like that, and then have it
I think I might
in
have
the
a new
future.
business there.
Yeah, put some popsicle sticks in it and make
Yeah.
that for your children.
Yeah.
So
Do they have actually smoothie pops?
Greek yogurt pops are much more popular right
okay,
now,
okay.
but it's, I think, more fun to make this stuff at home.
Wow. Wow. All right, let's
Yeah.
let's recap a little bit. Just give me a
So ultimately, when you're making a smoothie, what you want to remember is to add that protein or fat, like we were just talking about in the flaxseed.
Mm-hmm.
Control the steps, and certainly, if you're going to eat one out of your home in a retail location, look at all the ingredients they're putting in and be really cautious and mindful. Don't just assume it's going to be good for you.
right. So
Yeah.
versus like if you go to a health food store where they have them, I noticed they tend to use organic and all
Yeah,
kinds of.
but remember, even if it's organic, or even if it's interesting sugars like agave and things like that, they, which is or honey or things, they're still adding calories, and they could be still adding more sugar than you meant to get.
Exactly. Well, this has been another terrific episode.
Thank you.
And I can't thank you enough for sharing.